Okay, this is a demonstration on how to create a French seam. The first thing that you will do is you will match up your fabric pieces, your sample pieces, and these are 2 layers of fabric, both 3.5 inches wide by 6 inches long. And usually when we create a seam, we'll always put our right sides together. But when you create a French seam, it's 2 separate kind of processes, so we actually put the wrong sides together first. So I've lined those up with the wrong sides together, and then I pin the edge line. Now what we're going to do is, because this is going to be in 2 separate steps, we're going to first sew a stitch line that is 3/8 inch wide. So make sure that you can find your 3/8 inch markings on your throat plate, and if you have that magnet seam line or the seam gauge, go ahead and move that over to 3/8. Then I'm going to hold on to my thread tails, insert my needle, and then drop my presser foot. Always make sure that you have your stitch length at 2.5 and you are on your straight stitch on your selector so that your needle is in the center. So I'm going to go ahead and sew, and I'm going to do some back stitching at the front end as well as on the back end, keeping that fabric straight along the edge of those 3/8 inch markings on your throat plate. Almost to the end, I'm going to do some back stitching. Alright, I'm going to trim those tails off on both the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to trim the seam allowance so it's at 1/8. And so we have 3/8 total, and so I'm going to come back and trim it at about 1/8 inch wide, which isn't very far from that stitch line that we just did. Okay, toss that fabric aside, and then what we have to do is we actually need to press this. What we're going to do is we're going to open this up and press the seam flat, just like we do with all the other ones. We're going to open it up and we're going to press the seam open, and then we're going to press it to the side. So I'm going to move the camera and angle it towards the iron that I have set up. Alright, so I have my sample set up there, and hopefully it's not too dark for you to see, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to press that seam open. If I can get my finger down in there to get it started. Let me grab my scissors. Sometimes my fingers are a little big and they struggle to get things going, especially when you have some delicate work areas. I have some trouble threading my needle sometimes too. So I have that pressed open, and then I'm just going to, I'm not really pressing heavily down on that seam right now. I'm just kind of gently trying to glide it open, and then when I get it open, then I press down, because we're working with such a small space. So after I get it pressed, I'm going to just slide it back just to make sure. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to press from this side. Everything is looking open, which is what we want. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to press this seam that we just opened up back to one side. Press it to one side, and I am going to turn up my steam because I don't think I have enough steam going. Hopefully that'll do the trick. Yeah, I can hear it going now. Alright. And we pressed it open first just to make sure that we would have a clean seam by the front edge. So I went ahead and pressed that seam allowance, so all my seam allowances are headed towards the top of my sample here. Alright, so I'm going to, now what we need to do is we need to then fold it back, and we're going to fold it so that our fabric is facing the direction of that new seam allowance that we pressed, in my case, upward. Alright, so I'm going to fold it there. I'm going to make sure that that fold line is creased nicely, and then I'm going to come back with my iron and press that down. I'm going to press and sweep away from that fold line. Alright, now we're going to move back over to the sewing machine. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to position our sample so that now our fold side, and right now we have it pressed so that our right sides are together, and that the folded edge that we just pressed is facing all the markings on our faceplate. So the folded edge is to the right of our presser foot here. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to line this up with my quarter inch markings, or depending on how your faceplate is written, 4/8, which is a half, or 1/4 inch. Let me see if I can find that on here. It's going to be 1 notch just to the left of 3/8, and on my machine it's only going to be on the clear bobbin cover, so we're doing it at 1/4, and that's just going to be right inside the presser foot width here. Okay, so we're sewing now at 1/4 inch from the fold. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just line up my fabric right underneath my needle, making sure that my folded edge is right along that 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch marking on my clear bobbin. In the clear case, it's right above my bobbin. I'm going to hold my tails and lower my needle in. I'm going to do back stitching on the top and on the bottom. And just go slow. You don't need to speed along here. I'm just running that folded edge of that fabric right along the 1/4 markings. Then as I approach the edge, I'm going to do some back stitching and then come back forward. And then I'm going to clip my thread tails on both ends. And I'm going to open that up and see how that looks. Now as you can see, I do have one little thread here that's kind of flying out. That's probably from something that I didn't trim. But as you can see, that the first step, that first 3/8 that we stitched and then trimmed down to 1/8 and pressed, we don't see any of those lines at all. Everything is enclosed in this new seam that we sewed that was 1/4 inch wide. Alright, so when you open your sample up, and if you see any pieces of fabric coming out the side, that means that either you didn't trim it to the right edge, or you didn't stitch this 1/4 inch one straight along. So that's kind of an indicator to see if you did it right. Alright, and that's how you create a French seam. What I'm going to do, and I'm not going to video this, but I'm just going to go back over to my iron, and I'm going to press this so that the seam allowance is going to one side, either to the right or the left, it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to label this French seam with my name and the class, and go ahead and place it in my binder.